Okay, so I have a confession.
This is either going to be deeply relatable or deeply concerning.
My mom has asked me at least 4 times this year when I'm going to stop throwing my money away on rent.
Yeah, that phrase has probably done more damage to personal finances than any bad investment ever could.
And she means well. She genuinely means well. But I kept thinking, wait, is she right? Because everyone says it. Your parents say it, your coworkers say it, the bank certainly says it.
The bank has a very specific reason for saying it.
Right, and that's exactly what tonight is about. Alex, what are people actually going to understand by the end of this episode? Give it to me straight.
By the end of tonight, you're going to be able to do a back-of-the-napkin calculation that tells you, for your specific situation, whether buying a home actually builds wealth or whether it's quietly draining it. And more importantly, you're going to understand why the question isn't rent or buy, it's rent or buy compared to what else you could do with that money.
Compared to what else? I love that framing already.
Oh, and quick nod to last week. We spent a lot of time on the Roth IRA versus 401k decision, which is about where your money lives after you invest it. Tonight is about whether your house even counts as an investment in the first place.
Which a lot of people assume it does, automatically.
Almost everyone assumes it does, and that assumption is doing a lot of quiet, expensive work on their behalf.
So let's start with the myth itself. Renting is throwing money away. Where does that even come from?
It comes from a very clean, very appealing story. You pay rent, that money goes to your landlord, you never see it again. You pay a mortgage, that money goes toward owning something. At the end, you have an asset. The story is not wrong exactly, it's just incomplete. It leaves out about 60% of what actually happens when you buy a home.
60% is a big omission.
It is, and the 60% they leave out is where the real math lives.
Okay, so the pain point is people make the biggest financial decision of their lives based on an incomplete story. And tonight, we're filling in the rest of it.
Exactly. And this isn't anti-home ownership. Buying a home can absolutely be the right move. We're going to get to that. But it should be a choice made with the full picture, not half of it.
Because right now, a lot of people are stretching themselves financially to buy something they believe is building wealth when the math might be telling a very different story.
And they don't know it yet. That's the part that keeps me up at night. Figuratively speaking, we're a sleep podcast.
Right. Okay, so let's get into the hidden mechanics. What is actually happening inside that monthly payment that nobody explains?
All right, so imagine you fill a bucket with water every month. That's your payment. A nice round number, let's say $1,500. Now, you assume all that water is filling up your bucket, building toward ownership, but there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket. And in the early years, almost everything drains out that hole before it even touches the sides.
The whole being interest?
Interest. On a standard 30-year loan, the most common type in 2026, in the very first month, roughly 80% of your payment goes to the bank as interest. Only 20% chips away at what you actually owe.
So on that $1,500 payment, you're building $300 of actual ownership per month.
In month 1. It improves slowly over time. This is called amortization, meaning the gradual process of paying down a loan where early payments are mostly interest and later payments are mostly principal. But the tilt doesn't meaningfully flip until you're well over halfway through the loan.
So for the first 15-ish years, the bank is eating the majority of every payment.
More or less, yes. And that's just the interest. That's not the full picture of what home ownership costs.
Okay, what else is in there?
Property tax, a percentage of your home's value that you pay to the local government every year, whether the house is paid off or not. In many parts of the country, that's 1 to 2% of the home's value annually. On a $400,000 home, that's $4,000 to $8,000 a year, just in tax, which renters don't pay directly.
Which renters... Wait, do renters pay it indirectly through their rent?
Good instinct. Sometimes, yes. Landlords build costs into rent. But in markets where rents are suppressed by competition, renters often dodge a meaningful chunk of it. It depends heavily on the local market.
Okay, what else?
Maintenance. The general rule of thumb is 1% of the home's value per year goes to upkeep, the roof, the boiler, the plumbing, the driveway. On a $400,000 home, that's $4,000 a year on average.
Renters call their landlord. Homeowners call a contractor and then quietly weep.
Accurate. And then there's the cost nobody talks about at all. Opportunity cost. This is the idea that money has a job to do, and when it's tied up in one place, it can't work somewhere else. If you put $60,000 down on a home, that $60,000 is locked inside that house. It can't be in an index fund growing. It can't be anywhere else.
So the real question isn't just, is my house going up in value? It's, is my house going up in value faster than what that money could be doing instead?
That is exactly the question. And historically, when you run that comparison honestly, the answer surprises people.
All right, so we've got the mechanics. Interest eating your early payments, property tax, maintenance, opportunity costs on the down payment. That's the full picture of what buying actually costs. Next, Alex is going to show us what history actually says about home values as an investment. And there's a specific economist whose research on this changed how a lot of people think about their driveway.
Robert Shiller, Nobel Prize in Economics 2013, professor at Yale, and he spent decades building what's now called the Case-Shiller Index, essentially a long-term scorecard of U.S. home prices going back over 100 years.
And what did the scorecard say?
When you adjust for inflation, meaning you strip out the fact that $1 in 1920 bought more than $1 today, U.S. home prices, on average, have grown at roughly 0.2% per year in real terms.
0.2, as in basically flat.
Basically flat, over 100 years. The stock market, by comparison, has returned roughly 7% per year after inflation over the same long period.
So the thing everyone calls their best investment historically returned almost nothing above inflation.
Now, Shiller is always careful to say this is an average, and real estate is intensely local. San Francisco in the 2010s was not average. Detroit in the 2000s was not average. Location matters enormously.
But the national story over the long arc is much quieter than the myth.
Much quieter. And then 2008 happened.
Right, because the historical average is one thing, but the worst case scenario of that myth is 2008.
Between 2006 and 2012, the average U.S. home lost roughly 30% of its value. In places like Phoenix and Las Vegas and parts of Florida, it was closer to 50 or 60%. People who had bought homes believing they were building wealth found themselves underwater, meaning they owed more than the house was worth. They couldn't sell, they couldn't refinance, they were stuck.
And the painful thing is many of those people had done everything right. They'd saved the down payment, they'd signed the papers, they'd followed the script.
They followed a script written by people with a financial interest in them buying. The real estate agent earns commission on the sale. The broker earns a fee on the loan. The bank earns 30 years of interest.
Nobody in that chain gets paid if you decide to keep renting.
Nobody. Which doesn't make buying wrong. It just means you need to be the one running your own numbers because nobody else at that table is running them for you.
Okay, so we have the historical proof that homes aren't the automatic wealth machine we were sold. But here's where I'm going to push back because I know exactly what people listening are thinking right now.
Go ahead, I'm ready.
Objection 1. But Alex, my rent keeps going up. At least with the fixed rate loan, my payment is locked. That's a real thing. That's not nothing.
It's a real thing. A fixed rate does give you payment stability that rent cannot guarantee. A fixed rate does give you payment stability that rent cannot guarantee. But my payment is stable and my costs are stable are very different sentences. The principal and interest portion is fixed. The property taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, those go up. People forget that when comparing numbers.
So the mortgage number is stable, but the total cost of ownership number is not.
Correct. And the honest counter to rising rents is, in markets where rent is climbing fast, home prices usually are too, which makes the down payment bigger, which makes the cost of not investing that money bigger.
Huh. It moves together.
Usually, yes. Hot rental markets and hot buying markets are typically the same place at the same time.
Okay, objection 2. And this is the big one. But Codie, when it's paid off, the house is mine. I own it outright. A renter has nothing. I hear this constantly.
This is the most emotionally compelling argument for buying, and it's not wrong. There is real, significant value in owning your home outright. lower monthly costs in retirement, stability, the ability to pass it to your children. But here's the question the argument skips. What did the renter do with the difference?
The difference being if rent is cheaper than a mortgage payment in that area.
If your rent is $2,000 and the equivalent ownership cost on the same property would be $3,000, and you took that $1,000 difference and invested it for 30 years, you might have more wealth than the homeowner, possibly significantly more.
But that only works if the renter actually invests the difference, which not everyone does.
And that is the honest weakness of the renter's path. Owning forces savings. Every month, whether you feel like it or not, you are building equity in that house. The renter has to be disciplined enough to replicate that behavior voluntarily.
So buying isn't mathematically wrong. It's psychologically easier for a lot of people. It removes the decision from the equation.
For a lot of people, yes. The forced savings element is genuinely valuable. And that's a real legitimate argument for buying that doesn't get discussed enough in the rent wins crowd.
Look at you defending homeownership on the episode where you're questioning homeownership.
I contain multitudes. The point is never renting always wins. It's understand what you're actually buying, pun intended.
Okay, so let's land this plane. If someone is listening right now and they're trying to figure out their own situation, what do they actually do?
First, your starting position matters because the math looks very different depending on where you are. If you have little to no savings right now, your priority is not buy or rent. Your priority is building a financial cushion. A down payment under 20% triggers PMI, private mortgage insurance, an extra monthly fee with zero benefit to you.
So rushing into a home purchase without a 20% down payment means you're paying an extra tax on your own impatience.
And that's a good way to put it. If you already have savings, say $5,000 to $20,000, the next question is, what does the price-to-rent ratio look like in your specific city?
Price-to-rent ratio? What is that?
It's a simple comparison. Take the purchase price of a home, divide it by the annual rent you pay for the same home. If the result is below 15, buying is generally favorable. If it's between 15 and 20, it's a toss-up. Depends on your personal situation. If it's above 20, renting and investing the difference tends to win mathematically.
And right now, in 2026, what does that look like in most major cities?
Most major coastal cities, New York, San Francisco, Seattle, Los Angeles, are sitting above 25, some above 30, which means the math in those markets specifically tilts heavily toward renting, if and only if the renter invests the difference.
And in smaller cities, the Midwest, the South,
much more favorable for buying. Columbus, Ohio, Tulsa, Oklahoma, many parts of Texas. Price-to-rent ratios in the 12 to 16 range. In those markets, buying starts to make real mathematical sense.
So the answer to should I buy or rent is literally it depends on your zip code.
Among other things, yes, which is why a blanket statement like renting is throwing money away is not just incomplete, it's potentially dangerous advice depending on where you live.
Okay, 3 things. Give me 3 things someone can do tomorrow morning.
1. Google the price-to-rent ratio for your specific city. There are free tools. The NYT Is It Better to Rent or Buy calculator is one of the best. Plug in your real numbers, not the numbers you hope are true, your actual numbers. 2. If you currently own, calculate your true cost of ownership. Add up your monthly payment plus your annual property tax divided by 12 plus 1% of your home's value divided by 12 for maintenance. That's your real monthly cost, not just the number on the statement. 3. If you rent and your rent is meaningfully lower than ownership costs in your area, open a dedicated investment account this week. Automate a transfer of even half that difference every month. You don't need to move a lot of money. You need to move it consistently.
The forced savings element, but on your own terms.
Exactly. You're building the discipline without the 30-year contract.
I love that. Okay, the big takeaway from tonight. Buying a home can be the right move. Renting can be the right move. The answer lives in your zip code, your down payment size, your price-to-rent ratio, and whether you actually invest the difference if you rent.
Not in what your parents did, not in what the broker tells you over a desk, in the numbers, your numbers.
I'm going to call my mom tomorrow and very gently send her this episode.
Let me know how that goes.
We'll make an episode about surviving that conversation. Okay, on that note, you know the drill. Close your eyes if they aren't already. Let the numbers settle. You know something tonight that you didn't know this morning.
And next time, we're going somewhere a lot of people avoid thinking about. Credit cards. Specifically, the silent mathematics of minimum payments and why the most expensive thing you own might be the little plastic card in your wallet.
Tomorrow night, we're breaking down exactly how credit card companies turn your good intentions into their best quarterly earnings and what you can do about it starting this week. Don't